to the whole class?
Okay, ma'am.
In your check your email early times. The very beginning, everybody who was on my register had shared the folder. I think last 2 days I have not yet put them in the same folder, but I'll do that. But all the class recordings are there. Each one of you have access to those.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
So today we are going to look at the exceptions to 300. You should understand this, that there are two kinds of exceptions under IPC. One is this example where a section contains certain exceptions. So the exceptions given in a section are limited to only that section. They will not be read for any other offense or any other section. But then we have chapter 4 in IPC, which lays down general exceptions. So general exceptions means that they have to be read in every section, even though they are not forming part of that section, but they will be assumed to be part of the same of every section we have. And we had a very clear example that when we said whoever, because section 82 in the general exception chapter 4 says child below the age of 7 is not capable of having the mens rea required, is not liable for any offense on the presumption of doli incapax, not having the capacity to have mens rea. That is to be read in every section. So that's what general exceptions are. Today, the exceptions we are beginning to look at are limited only to the offense of murder. And as we noticed that in the opening phrase of section 300 says, except in the cases hereinafter accepted. So the scheme says that if the case falls in any of the 5 exceptions, then it will not be murder. It will be still culpable homicide. So the scheme is same. First, find out culpable homicide. Then find out does it amount to murder. Then find out if any of the exceptions are retracted. If any of the exceptions are retracted, then it still is culpable homicide. So with that, we look at the first exception. What are the 5 exceptions? First exception is what we refer to as grave and murder, death caused by under the influence of grave and sudden provocation. Second exception is exceeding the right of private defense. The third exception is talking about actions done by public servant or under the order. Exception 4 is talking about death caused in sudden fight. And exception 5 talks about death caused after with the consent of the person above the age of 18 years. So we'll look at each of the details of the exceptions to find out whether the exception apply, and if the exception applies, then of course it will not be an offense of culpable homicide. The scheme of the exception 1 is a little complicated. So first we say that if there is death caused by grave and sudden provocation, then it will not be murder. But at the same time, this exception also have exceptions. So if sudden and grave provocation has been caused because of the 3 circumstances given there, then it will not be grave and sudden provocation. The defense is not available. So first let's read it and then perhaps it will become a little clear. So who's going to read exception 1?
Ma'am, may I?
Then I,
Yes, please.
When culpable homicide is not murder. Culpable homicide is not murder if the offender, whilst deprived of the power of self-control by grave and sudden provocation, causes the death of the person who gave the provocation or caused the death of any other person by mistake or accident.
So let's bifurcate this section. What we call it, what are the ingredients in this section? In how many parts can we bifurcate this? So the first one is only describing when culpable homicide is not murder. So what is the circumstance? The first one is the person is still deprived of the power of self-control. So not merely deprivation is important, but the first word is whilst. So every single word will have an importance, will have a context, and if it is not provided. So suppose somebody lost self-control, and Anavati is an example where the judge said, he did lose self-control when his wife confessed of the murder, of the illicit relationship. But he regained control. When he actually did the killing, he had regained his control. So he will not be entitled to the exception. So for the exception to apply, first of all, the person must have lost self-control. But the activity should also be committed while he was still deprived of it. So there are two requirements. One word is whilst. Second phrase is deprived of power of self-control. Then in what circumstances? By grave and sudden. Grave and sudden are two different words. So it should not be only grave, but it should also be sudden. It should not be only sudden, but it should be grave also. The joining word between the two of them is grave and sudden. If the words were saying grave or sudden, one of the two. When the section says both of them, then the provocation should, the self-control should have been lost by a provocation, which was, so one which has should be provocation. So if somebody says, you're very ugly, and I get very angry at this, I'm provoked, I'm losing self-control. How dare you say such a thing? So whether what this person said amounts to provocation is one question. That what has been done or said, does it amount to provocation because of which ordinary people will lose their self-control? So that will be the test to be applied. So, but what is the requirement? There should be a provocation, which should be sudden and grave, due to which a person lost self-control. And while he was still deprived of the self-control, causes the death of the person who gave the provocation. So then who should be the one who has, suppose A has given the provocation, you go and kill B, because that is A's brother. You want to punish A, therefore you kill B. The section will not apply. So even though there was a provocation, it was grave and it was sudden, you did lose your self-control, you were still angry when you killed your brother, exception doesn't apply because if you apply, this section says you have killed the person who gave you the provocation or caused the death of any other person by mistake or accident. So you found your, this person was in front of you, who was provoking you to act, and you maybe gave a shot, and suddenly he ducked and somebody else came in between. You were not intending to kill. And in this case, because the death has been caused by somebody else, but not intentionally caused the death of another, but by accident or by mistake. So therefore, the exception would still apply. So which would mean that if a person has been killed while you were deprived of power self-control, some other person has been killed, you will still be entitled to have the exception of grave and sudden provocation. Your conviction will still remain there under culpable homicide. Then it says, the above exception is subject to the following proviso. So now we have got certain other circumstances to be proved that even though everything else is satisfied, that you did cause the death of the person who gave the provocation, you had lost self-control due to sudden and grave provocation, and while you were still deprived of the self-control, you killed the other person. You still need to look for three other conditions. If any of the three conditions are in existence, your defense will still not be available. So the first condition, somebody please read. First proviso to exception 1. Yeah, Divakar.
That the provocation is not sought or voluntarily provoked by the offender as an excuse for killing or doing harm to any person.
So we, हिंदी में कहावत है, आ बैल मुझे मार. So when this fellow says, how dare you, मुझे हाथ लगा के दिखा, touch me, and this person touches you, मेरा collar पकड़ के दिखा, this person holds your collar, and then you say, now I am, how dare he touch my collar? So first, you dare a person to do something, when he does that, you get angry. Exception, proviso 1. So the above exception is subject to the following proviso. If the provocation is not sought or voluntarily provoked by the offender as an excuse for killing or doing any harm to any person. So if I'm kind of asking for trouble, and when the trouble does come, I take that as an excuse to respond. To think that no, it should be sudden, it should not be intentionally sought. If you do that, then exception doesn't apply. Then secondly,
that the provocation is not given by done in obedience to the law or by a public servant in the lawful exercise of the powers of such public servant.
so the police has got an arrest warrant. Police comes to arrest you, and you get very angry. I'm such a powerful man. I'm a big leader. I'm a religious leader. I'm whoever I am. How dare you touch me? How dare you come do that? So I really got this was suddenly, how could they, how could anybody issue a search warrant against me, an arrest warrant against me? So I get angry on that. So what he was doing was, he had the legal authority. The provocation is not given by anything done in obedience of law or by a public servant in the lawful exercise of power. So the policemen who have come to arrest me, they were public servant, and they are doing law. What they're doing is the power given to them by the law. So either they're obeying the law, or they're doing something in the exercise of the lawful powers. Then it cannot, even if you do get provoked, you are not expecting the search warrants to come to you. You were not expecting that the people will actually come to arrest you. You got suddenly and gravely provoked, but that's not sufficient for you to get out. If you kill that policeman, if you...
Ma'am, give another example.
Yes?
Could you please give another example? I didn't quite understand this.
We've seen this in the newspaper, that somebody is charged. Suppose there is a Baba, there is a Babaji against whom a woman has filed a complaint of rape. So the police comes to arrest him. His followers they got very angry that how could the police come to arrest their Baba, the revered Baba. So the supporters of the Baba attack the police, and a policeman is killed. The exception will not apply. The Baba supporters became very angry. Suddenly lost their
What if the police person goes ultra vires, doing something beyond his duty, which causes the provocation, which led to his murder? Can that be an excuse?
We will come back to this particular example when we come into the area of private defense. That in what cases you still have the right of private defense against the public servant. So whether in all cases, and what is the extent of that right? Suppose there is a policeman, there's a proper policeman, and he is going to take you to the police station. You've got no right of private defense against that person, nor you have a right to attack that person. But if you know that, or you have reason to believe that you will be whisked from here and you will not be produced before the authority, the possibility of you killing, you being killed is very much there. So in certain, we will come to read section 96 to 106 to find some answers for your query when it comes to the public servant, and we think that it will lead to certain consequences which can deprive us for any access to justice. You may still have the right to private defense. Suppose there is a case of fake encounter. The police is taken into a secluded place. They then release you, and then they are firing at you. You can fire back if you have the fire or whatever you need to do for defense yourself. This is a case of fake encounter. You can kill that person because your life is in danger. So there are certain circumstances in which you can still exercise your right of private defense. But here we are talking about people becoming angry. It's not an action. The example I gave was not an example where he was trying to defend his life. he was getting angry at the action, that how dare you touch our Baba. So this supporter, let's think about these instances of lynching we have seen number of times. So somebody is taking the cow, wherever they're taking, we do not know. Somebody suspects that taking the cow for slaughtering it. He has an argument, gets very provoked that how dare you take a cow, and he kills that person. He is greatly provoked by the thought that somebody is thinking of, or he kind of finds meat and he thinks it's a beef. Seeing that there is beef, he gets greatly provoked. Suddenly he found that this is beef which is being given to him. He gets very provoked, he kills. What do you think? Will the exception apply or not apply?
Ma'am, it won't apply because it wasn't a grave provocation. It might be a provocation for a certain sect who are very katta rigid, whatever you call them. But as it is clearly written, for a common man, it should be it should be applicable for a reasonable man, and no reasonable man
I also
would
think
go.
that the example I gave you did not involve a public servant. Yes, so this was not a good example for secondary. Let me think of another good example of secondary, where we're saying provocation is not given by anything done in obedience to the law. So let's look at the definition of public servant. Let's skip the definition earlier. So first of all, find out what range of people whose action is within our consideration. The definition of public servant, you can find public servant. Section 21. Words public servant denote a person falling under any of the descriptions hereafter following, namely, secondly, every commissioned officer of the military, naval, or air force of India. Third, every judge, including any person empowered by law to discharge, whether by himself or as a member of any body or person, any adjudicatory functions. So you are being arrested, having been found by a judge to have committed an offense. So the police comes to arrest you, to take you to prison. Your family members get very provoked. They say, no, this is all unjust decision. We know that this person has not committed it. And they attack the policeman and kill that policeman. They are not entitled to the defense of grave and sudden provocation, because the act of arrest was being done by a public servant in the obedience of law. Or according, what was the second part of this one? By a public servant in the lawful exercise of the powers of such public servant. So police has the power to arrest a person.
What if it is not in the obedience of law? What if the policeman is taking the decisions himself
Then you will
without?
say that then the defense will not apply. No? It has to be recognizing that he was acting within the powers of the public servant. So suppose somebody, a policeman comes to your house, he wants to do a search of your house. You're a law student, you know that search cannot be done by the police officer without a search warrant. But he says, no, I'm a police wala, I can do your search. He said, no, you cannot enter. So when he insists, you get gravely provoked, you kill that man. What do you think will happen? Will the exception apply or not apply?
Not apply.
Why not?
I think it will apply because he wasn't in obedience with the law. He wasn't acting in good faith, and still he provoked. He was not following his duty.
Whether the policeman in this example, he was certainly public servant, was he doing something in the lawful exercise of the powers of such public servant? Thus, the police has the power to enter your house without a search warrant.
No, ma'am.
Then,
No, ma'am.
if you do not have, then exception is not attractive merely because as a public servant. You're not free to do whatever you want to do. But if he has a search warrant, you still do not allow him to enter the house. Then if you attack him, you are falling into the proviso. Your action is following the proviso, and therefore, even though you are actually enraged, is of no use. It is assumed that if you act against the lawful exercise of power by the public servant, then you are the unreasonable person. So merely because you actually lost self-control is not sufficient. We do expect people to respect the activities, the powers of the public servants. So the two categories, let's look at the next category. Every officer of a court of justice, including a liquidator, receiver, commissioner, who, and remember the words are including. So suppose a bailiff. Bailiff is a person who comes to serve summons, to serve plaints, etc. So he's an officer of the court. So if he comes to serve you summons, NBWs, you get angry. How dare this person bring NBW against me? I'm such an important person. And you attack him, he dies. Will the exception be applicable?
No.
Again, he is doing within his power, which he has got a duty to do.
Order of law.
Every juryman, remember we do not have juries anymore, and we have not deleted this word, but we don't have juries anymore. So juryman is, and then we include, they have given us some examples of liquidator, receiver, or commissioner in cases of mortgage. So you mortgaged the property, you could not repay the loan. Now the liquidator, your property is now been declared, you are declared insolvent, and you have to now vacate your house. So the liquidator along with the other people come to get you out of the house. You get angry, attack them, kill somebody. Exception clause to proviso to attract it, you are not entitled to the exception. Every juryman, assessor, or member of a panchayat assisting a court of justice or public servant. So somebody comes looking for somebody, the panchayat has said, yeah, I'll identify you to the house. So if you kill the panchayat, so every juryman, assessor, member of a panchayat assisting a court of justice or public servant. So that's also a public servant. So if you kill, even if you kill the panchayat member, that's also a public servant. So and keep looking at the different categories. Every arbitrator or other person to whom any cause or matter has been referred for decision or report by any court of justice or by any other competent public authority. So you give the matter to an arbitrator, he gives judgment against you, you get angry. You are expecting the judgment to come in your favor. You can't attack that person. Every person who holds any office by virtue of which he is empowered to place or keep any person in confinement. That's also included within the category of public servant. Every officer of the government whose duty it is as such officer to prevent offences, to give information of offences, to bring offender to justice, or to protect the public health, safety, or convenience. So we have all these other officers, executive magistrates, who have been given certain quasi-judicial powers. Every officer whose duty it is as such officer to take, receive, keep, expend any property on behalf of the government, or to make any survey, assessment, or contract on behalf of the government, or to execute any revenue process, or to investigate or to report on any matter affecting the pecuniary interests of the government, or to make another example. We have seen this again in the recent past, so many examples. There's a mandir in the middle of the road. Redevelopment plan need the temple to be relocated. People come and prevent that happening. If in that whole process some policeman gets injured and dies, exception not applicable, even though the person may have actually lost self-control. Bhagwan ji ka ghar kaise aap hata rahe ho? So we have got lots of those examples where people get very angry, lose their self-control, attack the public servant. The exception doesn't apply to those persons. Then every officer whose duty it is as such officer to take, receive, keep, expend any property, to make survey or assessment, to levy any rate or tax for any secular common purpose of any village, town or district, or to make, authenticate or keep any document for the ascertaining of the rights of the people of any village, town or district. 11th, every person who holds any office in virtue of which he is empowered to prepare, publish, maintain, or revise an electoral roll or to conduct an election or part of an election. So, election officers. 12. Every person in the service or pay of the government or remunerated by fee or commission for the performance of any public duty by the government. Be in the service of pay of a local authority or corporation established by or under the control under a central, provincial, or government company is defined in Section 67 of the Companies Act. So when we are looking at the proviso 2, secondly proviso to the exception 1, we have to keep track of all this. So if you are a defense lawyer or prosecution lawyer, the first thing you will have to find out whether the provision is adopted or not to determine whether the act is being done by a public servant as defined in Section 21. If it is public servant, then the further question to ask, which you rightly raised, is that the act this public servant is doing in obedience of law or by the public servant in the lawful exercise of the powers. So either he, not suppose a property, we have for widening of roads, properties are taken away, for making roads, properties are taken. So the notification that such and such property is now taken, you will be paid money. He said, no, I don't want money, I want to keep my property. Again, he gets angry that no, this is my property, how can you take it? So any of these, if these are, what he's doing is in obedience of law or in the process of exercising their power, it will not, even if it causes sudden and great provocation, the person does lose self-control, he or she are not entitled to the exception. Thirdly, the provocation is not given by anything done in the lawful exercise of the right of private defense. So, suppose a man was beating his wife very badly and she feared that she would die unless she retaliates. So she hits back. She picks up something else. She picks up something from the kitchen and she hits the husband. Now the husband got really angry that how this woman, how could she do this? He gets really angry, loses self-control and kills the wife, even though initially he was not intending to kill. Or suppose the husband was hitting her and she felt that her arm has already been broken. Or the way he's hitting her, my arm will get broken. She has a right of private defense, even against the husband, against anybody she has the right, even against an innocent person she has that right. So if she's exercising her right of private defense and then you get angry, a Dalit boy is raising his head that you cannot exploit me, you get angry that how dare this Dalit boy could raise his voice, how could this person do such and such thing. So if you get enraged in these circumstances, when you attack that person, then he exercised their they exercised their right of private defense. You got angry that how dare they do it? Because Zamindar was skinning, what do you call that, Koda. He was beating to a person of a lower caste or a poor person or a laborer, landless laborer. The class of people who are very, suppose there is a woman who is said to be a witch in a village, the villagers believe she is a witch. So she is now being tied to a tree in order to set her on fire. She somehow escapes that time and then she picks up something and kills this man. No, she kind of picks up something and attacks the people who are going to tie her up. Now the villagers got really angry, lost their self-control, and even without tying, they poured petrol on her and killed her while they were so angry. Exception doesn't apply. She was exercising her right of private defense when she attacked the people who are going to tie her up. So in response to her right of private defense, if you add, exception still does not apply. Explanation to the section says, whether the provocation was grave and sudden enough to prevent the offense from amounting to murder is a question of fact. So when it's a question of fact, we need to look at the facts and circumstances of the case to determine whether ordinary persons in these circumstances would have lost their self-control. So ordinary persons are not supposed to lose their self-control in the three proviso scenario, where the act is in the lawful exercise of power by the public servant, in the obedience of law, or it is the action of the person was an exercise of private defense, and when it has been sought for. So now we are going to look at the exception, the illustrations given. And what I want you to do is, one person read the illustration, and then we try to find out which part of the exceptions or the proviso are responsible for the answer we have in these illustrations. Okay, somebody, okay, should I ask somebody? Sakshi Raj, you want to read? I'm reaching out to students who have not spoken so far. Sakshi Raj, do you have the section before you? Ramneek Gautam?
Yes.
Please read the first illustration. Illustration Ramneek, we are having problem with your voice.
This is provocation.
No, your voice is not coming clear.
Am I not audible, ma'am?
Now you're audible. Okay, we'll ask Sandhya.
Ma'am, illustration
Ma'am.
A. A. Under the influence of passion excited by a provocation given by Judd, intentionally kills Y. Judd child. This is murder inasmuch as the provocation was not given by the child and the death of the child was not caused by accident or misfortune in doing an act caused by the provocation.
Okay, this is kind of coming from the main part of exception 1, when it says causes the death of the person who gave the provocation. It's they've taken very categorically the language from the section itself. So who is going to Vinay? You're reading exception illustration B. Vinay, do you have your legislation before you? Vinay is not here. Shreya? Shreya? Shreya also not here. Simran? Vidyanshu? You do not have, who is Nirupama is asking. No, I'm just trying to reach out to students who haven't spoken so far. Monica?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Monica, read illustration B.
Y gives grave and sudden provocation to A. A on
No, you are not audible. Your very faint voice.
Y gives grave and sudden provocation.
Monica, your voice is very faint. You are speaking. I know that you're speaking, but I can barely hear. Vicky?
Yes, ma'am.
Please read.
Y gives a grave and sudden provocation to A. A on this provocation fires a pistol at Y, neither intending nor knowing himself to be likely to kill. Z, who is near him but out of sight. A kills Z. Here, A has not committed murder, but merely a culpable homicide.
Why is it so?
Because it was caused due to grave provocation, and the moment it wasn't pre-decided, it happened in the spur of the passion of the moment.
It was an accident. The other person was killed by accident. That's our the word we have taken from there. So it was by accident that the other person got killed. Z got killed. Okay, illustration C. Who's going to read? Is Vinay back here? Suraj. Suraj, are you here?
Yeah, ma'am, I am here. Hello.
So please read illustration C.
A is lawfully arrested by Z. A baleful A is excited
A
to
bailiff.
sudden
A
uh,
bailiff.
a bailiff, sorry. A is excited to sudden and violent passion by arrest and kills Z. This is a murder in a such as much as provocation was given by a thing done by public servant in exercise of his power.
So this is the proviso 2, which has been attracted in this case, and therefore it still is murder.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, who is the next one who is going to read?
And do we need to remember the proviso? Which proviso it is?
100? No. For exam, you should know this, no? Unless you, no, you may not remember the number, whether it is first or it is third. For the examination purposes, we do not insist that you should remember the numbers as such. If you can remember number, it's good, but you don't have to remember the language also verbatim. But you should be able to identify by looking at the section which proviso, which section is applicable, which part of the section is not satisfied. So we are not insisting that you mug up things, but you must be able to apply the sections as they exist. There is a proviso applied, then we have done the same thing in 300. Which clause of 300? So we have to continuously keep identifying. We will have examples where we will say, oh, the provocation was sudden but not grave, or we will say the provocation was grave but not sudden. So you will have your reasoning will depend on this distinction. So therefore, it is important to identify which part of the section are being fulfilled or not being fulfilled. Illustration D. Pramod.
Yes, ma'am. A appears as witness before Z. A magistrate Z says that he does not believe a word of A's deposition, and then A has perjured himself. A is moved to
Perjured.
sudden perjured himself. A is moved to sudden passion by these words and kills Z. This is murder.
So why is it murder?
Because it was judge's duty to inform whether his conviction is true or not, to make assessment of it.
Judge is a, use the language, learn the Nirubam to use the language. Judge is a public servant. What he was doing was in the exercise of the power. He was doing something in the obedience of law or lawful exercise of powers of the magistrate. Therefore, it attracts proviso secondly, and grave and sudden provocation defense cannot be granted. Illustration E. Next volunteer. It's open to anybody, whoever wants to speak.
May I?
Yes, please. Mama Shaki will take the next one.
A attempts to pull.
Shivani is taking this.
Yes, sir. A attempts to pull Jed nose. Jed, in the exercise of the right of private defense, lays hold of A to prevent him from doing so. A is moved to sudden and violent passion in consequence and kills Jed. This is murder in as such as the provocation was given by a thing done in exercise of the right of private defense.
So which clause attracted in this one?
Ma'am, the
Ma'am,
clause which says that the
thirdly,
exercise of self-defense.
Thirdly,
Thirdly, proviso thirdly is attracted and therefore it remains murder. Last illustration.
Z strikes B. B is by this provocation excited to violent rage. A bystander intending to take advantage of B's rage and to cause him to kill Z, puts a knife into B's hand for the purpose. B kills Z with the knife. Here B have committed only culpable homicide, but A is guilty of murder.
So why is A liable for only culpable homicide?
Ma'am, this
His
is because
intention is not
that was his
to kill him.
intention
He
to
is under the
kill the
provocation
person. It
and
was
he
under the spur of heat of the moment, and the knife that was not his knife. It was given to him by another person, which means that there was no intention for him to kill. It was only due to the provocation. So he is liable for culpable homicide.
ma'am,
Listen,
I
we
have a
have to
doubt here.
think about the reasoning we are giving here. We are saying that it was
and
not even amounting to murder. In the exception, we want a reasoning which says even though it was the blow was intentionally given or immediately dangerous act or intentionally causing injury as is likely to cause death, despite that, it will not be murder because the exception one is attracted. So if you say it does not amount to it is not sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death, then attract. There is no question of applying the exception. We want a reasoning which will discuss the application or non-application applicability of exception one. So try again.
Ma'am, exception one says that there shouldn't be any intention of the person. There was another illustration, very same like this, that the person had a sword or something in his, and he used it to kill the person when he was provoked, which meant that he had the intention of killing the person beforehand. But in this case, he was given the knife by some other person. And it also falls in the category of proviso one, which says that there should not be any intention. It should only be enraged due to the passion of the moment.
Okay, let's read the illustration again. Z strikes B. B is by this provocation, excited to violent rage. A bystander, intending to get advantage of B's rage and to cause him to kill Z, puts a knife into B's hand for that purpose. He kills Z with the knife. So Z is liable for murder because he has used B to kill with the intention to kill, to give him such injury as he knows will kill. So Z, these cases, Z is easier. Now we are asking, case of B, why is B, why the says he is liable for culpable homicide but not murder? Is it because it does not know whether we are saying in this instance the case did not even amount to murder and therefore culpable homicide? Or are we showing that even though it amounted to murder, it will be culpable homicide because section 1 is subtracted? The first sentence is that B is by this provocation violent rage. So this is interpreting saying that he lost his self-control due to this sudden and grave provocation. And whilst he was still deprived of the power of self-control, he killed this other person. So is it attracting exception 1 at all, or it is not attracting exception 1?
It is attracting section 1 because the action was in retaliation of sudden and grave provocation given to him. He was not under self-control, and
none of
was not
none of the provisos are attracted. So therefore, he is so there are two ways to reach the consequence of saying it was a culpable homicide. One route is to say, oh, he had no intention to cause such injury as was sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death. We do not know. But we do know that he has given injury which is sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death, and he has done it whilst he was deprived of the power of self-control. So it is not that he was injured, he did not know he has a knife in his hand. So even though the knife was supplied by the other, which clearly showed that what was the supplier's intention, but whether this person was, when he was using the knife, did he had the intention to cause death? Did he have the intention to cause such bodily injury as is likely to cause death? Did he have the intention to cause such bodily injury as is sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death? Then in that case, first of all, you go by the steps, objective, subjective, steps, etc. So first one, does it amount to culpable homicide? It surely does. Then does it amount to murder? It will amount to murder because he is giving the injury intentionally, and the injury has resulted into death. Objectively speaking, they were sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death. So therefore, if it was not done due to sudden and grave provocation, it would have been murder. But because he has done it whilst deprived of the power of self-control, in these circumstances, therefore, exception 1 is attracted, and none of the provisos apply. Therefore, once the exception is attracted and the provisos are not attracted, the offense becomes culpable homicide, even though he has intentionally given the injuries which are sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death. So that's where the difference in the two, the consequence in both circumstances is it's culpable homicide. But the root here is first culpable homicide, then murder. Falling into the exception goes back to being a culpable homicide. So this is an illustration on the part of B. Now, on part of B, this is the root. Culpable homicide amounts to murder, falls into exception, comes back to become a culpable homicide. So tomorrow we look at Nana. Is the case listed for tomorrow? Or do we have a revision class? I forget.
Nanavati case, the next class.
Okay, your tutorial class is Monday?
Yeah.
I think this is tutorial for the other group. For you, it's the regular class. So tomorrow is Yeah, 25th. Manavati. When I've written in this one, mode code by students. So you will have a new experience tomorrow, and I do hope that you will participate with full vigor. You read this case, understand the facts, understand the arguments, choose either side. Do not worry about whether you think it's a losing side or it's a winning side. So do not think, oh, I want to be the state council because I won in this case. So you will prepare and present. We will act out it as a moot court. Some of us will act as judges. Others of us will divide ourselves and watch the performance. So the students who will volunteer to be vocal and act as a lawyer, 2 lawyers should, and you can consult each other before the class. So prepare together what you will argue for the prosecution. 2 other students should prepare what they will argue for the defense. We want to have 2 students acting as the judge, and they will listen to what has been presented. They will give the decision by reference to what has been argued in the case and not necessarily by what the judges have held in this case. So if the defense has argued better, then the prosecution, you can say it leads to acquittal. Not acquittal, conviction for culpable homicide. If you think prosecution has done a good job, you can say no exception not attracted. The other students who will not be actively participating, they have to actively listen. So first, if suppose the prosecution will start first, prosecution students has presented, the lawyers act, the students acting as the prosecution lawyers would present their arguments without interruption from the other side. On the basis of what we had, you have to cull out arguments by the state from the case material and make arguments saying he should be convicted for murder. So the people, you can yourself divide which side you want to be on the rest of the class. So everybody will listen.
You won't be the judge?
No, I won't be the judge. I will give you feedback for everybody's performance. That's why students will be, because we need to develop our power of listening, our ability to listen and analyze what we are listening. So therefore, you people should be the judge also. So 2 judges, 2 lawyers, prosecution side, 2 lawyers, defense side. Rest of the class will then reflect on, first we have the lawyers presenting, then we will ask the class, anyone who wants to add any argument which these 2 students have not presented. So you will have an opportunity to fill the gaps. Then we will have the two other lawyers presenting the defense argument. We will ask the class again, anyone who wants to chip in, add any argument which can be a good argument for the defense. Then we will ask the judges to give their reasoning for the judgment they give. Then students can still give a feedback to the judges that no, you did not take cognizance of this argument, or you have not, no, your reasoning is not correct. So you will be all reflecting on each other's performance. The total class time is 55 minutes. And we will, I hope that I don't have to spend time tomorrow to identify who will be the prosecution. So I will suggest first come, first serve, put down on the on our dashboard students who are volunteering to be lawyers on the prosecution side, 2 students who want to be on the defense side, not in the chat box, I'm saying, put your volunteering and who want to be the judges in the portal, on our classroom portal. So put it there, and we will then not spend any time in identifying who has to start. Prosecution has to start first, followed by defense, then the judges. So you will give all that information beforehand. So then you will have 10 minutes at the most, I say 7 minutes. 7 minutes on the most for prosecution, 7 minutes for the defense, 5 minutes on each side if the students want to add something. Then you will have another 3, 4, 5 minutes by the judges reflection, and I think that will be the time we will need for the class to finish this case. So you will be the leaders tomorrow. I will be only reflecting on your performance, how you have articulated, what is the argument still not covered at the end of the class. So that will be my job tomorrow. So are you excited to participate?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So then I want
Yes,
to
ma'am.
see the names before 9 p.m.
Yes,
today.
ma'am.
Put out your names. Put out your names out there saying, yes, I want to be prosecution lawyer, I want to be a defense lawyer, I want to be a judge. And the students who will volunteer first will get the primary chance. They will also get a chance to add on, but the primary chance will be to the students who, the first 2 to volunteer on each group. All right? Shall we stop?
Okay, ma'am.
Stop recording. Mark your attendance.